The phone rang at 3:17 in the morning. Most people don't answer calls at that hour. They silence them, roll over, tell themselves it's spam or drunk dialers or someone else's emergency. But Thalia Merrick wasn't most people, and she'd stopped sleeping through the night 18 months ago when the Marine Corps had taken her uniform and told her that saving lives without permission was called insubordination. She stared at the screen. Unknown number, Arizona area code, border territory. 3 a.m. calls from the border meant someone was dying, dead, or wishing they were. She answered on the second ring. Thalia? The voice hit her like a fist, young, terrified, familiar in the way blood is familiar. You don't forget the sound of your own sister even when fear has wrapped both hands around her throat. Bryn, just the name, nothing else needed. We're in trouble. Background noise filtered through, movement, other voices, female, crying. We crossed for work, the coyote, the kind of rage that has no name, because naming it would require acknowledging that the world is full of men who sell women like Bryn, and nobody stops them until it's too late. Then the 3 seconds ended, and she became what the Marines had trained her to be before they decided saving 30 girls in Mexico without filing proper paperwork was worth more than her career. She dialed a number she'd memorized but never saved. Security precaution. The kind of number that routes through 3 countries in a military satellite before it reaches an old man who should be retired but refuses to quit fighting wars that never officially ended. 2 rings. Thalia. The voice belonged to Colonel Garrett Vaughn, 92 years old, Korean War veteran. The man who'd taught her that duty doesn't retire when you do, it just evolves. Early for you. They took Bryn. The silence that followed lasted exactly 2 seconds. Long enough for a man who'd seen 70 years of war to shift from sleep to tactical assessment. Who? Don't know yet. Border traffickers. 5 women total. Bryn said they were being hung somehow. Punishment. Jesus. Papers rustled. Computer keys clicked with the deliberate speed of someone who'd learned technology late but learned it thoroughly. I'm pulling up active trafficking operations in Arizona corridor. Give me 30 seconds. Thalia used the time to gear up. Tactical vest, plate carrier, 3 magazines for the Glock, 2 for the backup piece, combat knife she'd carried since her first deployment, blade engraved with a single word. Necessary. Because killing was never good, but sometimes it was necessary. Got something, Vaughn said. 3 flagged locations, 1 abandoned factory, 1 shipping depot, 1 industrial warehouse off Route 60. Heat signatures on the warehouse, 8 sources. Could be multiple guards, could be victims, could be both. That's what worries me. He paused. The kind of pause that means a difficult truth is coming. Thalia, if this is who I think it is, say it. Raymond Marlowe. The name landed like a bullet. 18 months ago, Thalia had led a raid on a trafficking compound in Mexico, found 30 girls, got them out. The man running the operation had escaped during extraction. Her commanding officer ordered her to stand down, declared the mission complete, told her pursuing 1 man wasn't worth risking Marines. She disobeyed. Lost 2 men in the attempt. Marlowe got away. The Corps gave her a choice. Resign quietly with an honorable discharge, or face court-martial for disobeying direct orders in a combat zone. She chose resignation. They gave her dishonorable discharge anyway. Message sent. Saving lives without permission will cost you everything. If it's Marlowe, Thalia said, then I finish what I started. You'll need backup. I work alone. That's what got you discharged. No, caring more about lives than orders got me discharged. Working alone just means nobody else gets hurt when I make that choice. Vaughn said nothing for a moment, then, warehouse is 40 miles southwest of your position. I'll have resources standing by. Extraction vehicle, medical supplies, a place to take them after. Your compound? It's fortified, hidden, safe as anywhere can be in this business. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just bring them home. She hung up and headed for her truck. The drive took 90 minutes through desert that looked dead until you learned to see it properly. Then it became terrain, advantages, disadvantages, places to hide, places to die. She reached the warehouse at 0530. 15 minutes before sunrise. The best time to hit a target. Guards tired from night shift. Visibility poor. Mistakes happen in that dead hour between night and morning. The building sat alone in a stretch of nothing. Corrugated metal walls, weathered gray. Broken windows like empty eye sockets. A parking lot where weeds had won their war against concrete years ago. 2 vehicles outside. Black SUVs. Expensive. The kind of trucks that cost more than most people earned in a year. Clean despite the desert dust. Professional operation. Thalia parked 300 yards out and approached on foot. The desert was still cool, but heat was building. By noon, this place would be an oven. By sunset, anyone left inside would be cooked. She counted guard rotations for 20 minutes. 3 exterior, military precision in their movements. These weren't thugs or gang members. These were trained operators. That meant Marlowe. Nobody else ran trafficking rings like military operations. Guard patterns revealed a gap. 12-minute window on the south side when Guard 3 stopped to smoke, and Guard 2 was transitioning from east to west position. Amateur habit. Professionals don't develop patterns you can time. She moved during the gap. Over the chain-link fence like water flowing uphill. Fast, quiet, seemingly impossible until you'd done it enough times that muscle memory replaced thought. The service entrance had a lock that hadn't been maintained. She picked it in 90 seconds using tools that officially didn't exist and the Marine Corps had never officially taught her to use. Inside, the warehouse opened into darkness and the smell of oil, rust, and something else. Something organic that shouldn't be there. She pulled her Glock and moved deeper. The Marines had taught her room clearing, how to move through hostile structures like smoke, how to read shadows, how to predict where threats would appear before they appeared. But nothing had prepared her for what hung in the center of the warehouse floor. 5 women, suspended upside down from industrial chains bolted to ceiling beams, ankles shackled in rusted metal cuffs, bodies hanging 8 feet above concrete, hair dragging on the ground, blood pooling in their faces, turning their skin purple dark where gravity had been pressing for hours, maybe days. Thalia stopped moving. Her training said clear the room, assess threats, maintain tactical advantage. Her training could go straight to hell. She moved toward the chains. 4 hung unconscious. The 5th stirred weakly, fingers twitching against empty air, like she was trying to grab something that wasn't there anymore. Bryn, 23 years old, nursing student. The sister who'd taught herself to braid hair by practicing on Thalia's after their parents died. The sister who'd called her hero even after the dishonorable discharge because Bryn was the kind of person who understood that sometimes doing right means breaking rules. Her eyes were closed, breathing shallow, but alive. Thalia keyed her earpiece. Vaughn, I've got them. Status? Live, suspended, inverted, long-term. I need to move fast. Guard count? 3 exterior, unknown interior, going to make noise when I cut them down. Then make it count. She approached the nearest body, youngest one, 16, maybe 17, athletic build, dark hair tangled with dust and dried blood. This had to be Rowan, the youngest sister, the one who drew pictures of mountains and still believed people were mostly good. Thalia checked her pulse, faint, thready, but present. She pulled her combat knife and reached for the chain. Wait, the voice came from above. Broken, raw. Bryn, her eyes had opened, bloodshot, swollen, but focusing now on Thalia below. Please, Bryn whispered, please save my sisters. Thalia didn't answer, just positioned herself under Rowan's body, blade ready. I'll do anything. Bryn's voice cracked. Take me, use me. I'll give you whatever you want, every day. Just please don't let them die. The words hung in the air like smoke. Thalia cut the chain. The sound was sharp, metal parting under pressure, then the drop. She caught Rowan before the girl's head could hit concrete, lowered her gently, checked vitals. Pulse weak but steadying, now that blood could flow properly again. What I said, Bryn whispered. I meant it. Forget it. Talia's voice cut through the warehouse, final. Nobody pays with their body, not with me, not ever. She moved to the next chain, cut it, caught the falling woman, Delaney, 18, the athlete, or she had been before this, You don't understand, Bryn said. I have to offer something. That's how this works. Not with me, it doesn't. Third chain, Harlow, 20 years old, tech genius, the one who could hack anything with a circuit board. Then why, Bryn asked, why are you doing this? Talia cut the fourth chain, caught the woman she didn't know. Jennifer, late 20s, face she'd never seen but would never forget. Because leaving you here would be wrong, she said simply. She cut the final chain and caught Bryn as she fell. Her sister's body was trembling. Shock, pain, blood rushing back into limbs that had been denied proper circulation for God knows how long. You're safe, Talia said quietly. No one's dying here today. For 3 seconds, silence held. Then footsteps. Heavy boots on concrete. Guard 1 had heard the chains. Thalia pulled her Glock in one smooth motion and fired twice. Center mass, professional placement. He dropped before his weapon cleared the holster. Contact, she said into her earpiece. Going loud. Guard 2 appeared from the east entrance, saw his partner down, started to shout. Thalia put him down with 3 rounds, 2 chest, 1 head, Mozambique drill. They taught her that in close quarters combat. 2 to stop the threat, 1 to end it. She'd never enjoyed using it. Did it anyway. Guard 3 came through the south door, weapon up, actually competent. He got 2 shots off before Thalia's return fire hit him. She dropped behind a pallet stack. His rounds chewed wood 6 inches from her head. Professional shooting. She waited for his reload, then moved. Fast and low, close distance while his hands were on the magazine. He saw her coming, tried to bring the rifle up. Too slow. She hit him with her pistol butt. Temple shot. He dropped. Not dead, unconscious. She zip-tied his hands anyway. Old habits. Clear, she said into the earpiece. For now. Thalia, you've got maybe 10 minutes before shift change. Copy. She moved back to the women, started checking them systematically. Pulse, breathing, injuries that needed immediate attention. Rowan was worst. Barely responsive. Possible cardiac issues from prolonged inversion. She pulled emergency medical supplies from her tactical pack. IV fluids. Started lines on Rowan and the unconscious woman. Jennifer. Can you walk? She asked Bryn. I think so. Good, because we're leaving right now. She helped each woman to their feet. Bryn could stand but needed support. Delaney was stronger. Harlow was already trying to assess their situation despite barely being able to focus. Who are you, Harlow asked. Someone who's done being too late. She carried Rowan, led the others toward the exit. They moved slow. Women who'd been hanging for days couldn't move fast even when their lives depended on it. The service door was 30 yards away. They made it 20 before the alarm screamed. Sharp, electronic, the kind that means someone found bodies and empty chains. Go, Talia said. Move. They stumbled for the exit. She laid down covering fire, controlled bursts, making every round count because she'd burned through half her ammunition and reload breaks get people killed. The door burst open, 3 new guards. Fresh shift arriving early. She dropped 2. The third took cover and returned fire. A round hit her plate carrier. Impact felt like being kicked by a horse, but the ceramic held. She returned fire. Put him down. Clear, move! They burst through the door into pre-dawn light. The truck was 300 yards away. Might as well have been 3 miles. Behind them, the warehouse exploded. Not metaphorically, actually exploded. Fire and shrapnel and the distinctive crack of military-grade charges detonating. Someone had rigged the building to destroy evidence if operations went wrong. The blast wave knocked them forward. Thalia twisted mid-fall to protect Rowan. Hit the ground hard. Something in her shoulder tore. Ignored it. Up, keep moving. They ran, or tried to, running as hard when your body's forgotten how legs work. An old Ford F-250 materialized from the dawn haze. Armored panels, run-flat tires. The kind of truck that prioritized surviving over looking good. Colonel Garrett Vaughn stood beside it, 92 years old but still holding a rifle like he'd been born with it, scanning for threats with eyes that had seen Korea and every dirty war since. Get in, he shouted. Thalia shoved the women toward the truck bed. In, now! They climbed awkwardly. Bryn helped pull Rowan up. Delaney supported Jennifer. Thalia jumped into the passenger seat. Go! Vaughn floored it. The truck lurched forward, tires spraying sand, engine roaring. Behind them, 5 black SUVs appeared on the horizon. Contact rear, Vaughn called. I see them. She checked her weapons. 3 rounds left in the Glock, 1 magazine remaining. The backup piece was empty. Bad odds. The radio crackled. Not Vaughn's radio, the enemy frequency she'd snagged off a guard. A voice came through, smooth, educated. The kind of voice that gave orders and expected obedience because failure meant worse things than death. Thalia Merrick. She went cold. I know that's you, the voice continued. 18 months. You cost me 30 girls in Mexico. Cost me reputation. Cost me millions. I've been waiting for this moment. Raymond Marlowe. You're going to pull over, he said. You're going to hand over my property. And maybe I'll let you walk away. Talia picked up the radio. Here's what's actually happening. I'm getting these women to safety, and then I'm coming back for you. Silence. Then laughter. You never learn, do you? I ended your career 18 months ago. Today I'm ending everything else. The radio went dead. The SUVs kept coming, closing distance. Suggestions? Vaughn asked. Drive faster. That's not a plan. It's all I've got. Behind them in the truck bed, Bryn held Rowan close. The other women huddled together, scared, hurt, but alive. Thalia had gotten them out of the warehouse. Now she just had to keep them that way. The highway stretched ahead, empty, endless. The sun rising over desert like it did every morning, indifferent to whether anyone lived or died beneath it. They had maybe 5 minutes before the SUVs caught up. 5 minutes to figure out how to survive what came next. Thalia checked her weapons one more time. 3 rounds, 1 magazine. When this is over, she said to Vaughn, remind me to bring more ammunition. When this is over, Vaughn said, I'm buying you a better truck. The first SUV pulled alongside, window rolled down, weapon barrel emerging. Here we go, Talia said. The desert morning erupted into gunfire, and part 1 ended with bullets and cordite, and 5 women who'd been hanging helpless in a warehouse now hanging onto life in a speeding truck, while somewhere behind them, Raymond Marlowe smiled because he had resources and patience and the absolute certainty that eventually everyone makes a mistake. He just had to wait for theirs. The gunfight lasted 9 minutes. Thalia fired her last 3 rounds through the passenger window. 1 hit tire, 1 hit driver, 1 went wide. The lead SUV swerved hard, clipped a mile marker, rolled twice, and came to rest on its roof. 4 vehicles remained. Reloading, she said, ejecting the empty magazine. Vaughn already knew. You don't survive 70 years of warfare without learning to track ammunition counts for everyone around you. She slapped in her final magazine. 15 rounds. After this, she'd be throwing empty threats. The second SUV pulled up on Vaughn's side. Shooter and passenger seat. Professional. Controlled bursts targeting the engine block. Vaughn jerked the wheel right. The truck shuddered. Warning lights bloomed across the dashboard like deadly flowers. Engines hit, he said. Voice calm the way helicopter pilots are calm when they're losing altitude and have 30 seconds to find somewhere soft to crash. How long? 10 miles if we're lucky, 5 if we're not. Behind them, automatic weapons fire chewed through the truck bed's armored panels. The women screamed. Thalia twisted in her seat. Bryn was covering Rowan with her own body. Delaney had pulled Harlow down. Jennifer lay flat, hands over her head. No blood yet, but luck runs out fast when bullets are flying. There, Vaughn said, pointing ahead. Service road. 2 miles. Where's it go? My place. The compound. Vaughn's fortress in the canyon where he had been sheltering broken veterans for 20 years. Fortified, supplied, defensible, if they could reach it. The service road appeared like salvation. Vaughn yanked the wheel. The truck fishtailed onto dirt and gravel. The SUVs followed. 10 miles through canyon country. The engine temperature gauge climbed into the red. Steam vented from under the hood. The truck was dying. Just a question of whether it died before they reached safety or after. Talia turned in her seat. Everyone okay back there? Define okay, Harlow called back. Her voice was shaking but functional. We're alive. Pretty sure that's not supposed to last much longer. It'll last. Stay down. Behind them, the SUVs maintained pursuit, not closing distance fast. Waiting. They had time, resources, patience. Talk to me, Vaughn said quietly. Thalia understood. Keep me focused. Keep me here. Don't let me think about Korea or the men I lost or the fact that I'm 92 and this might be how it ends. Bryn called at 3:17 a.m., she said. Unknown number. Said they'd crossed for work and the coyote sold them. Smart girl, observant, nursing student, good head on her shoulders even when she's terrified. Like her sister. Talia didn't respond, just watched the temperature gauge climb higher. You never told me why you kept the dishonorable discharge, Vaughn said. Marines offered you a deal. Resign quietly, keep it honorable. You chose the hard way. They wanted me silent, complicit. If I took the honorable discharge, I was admitting they were right to prioritize orders over lives. So you chose principle over career. I chose 30 girls over a pension. Vaughn nodded slightly. That's why I called you for this. Not because you're the best operator I trained, because you'll do the right thing even when it costs everything. The compound appeared ahead. Adobe walls, guard towers converted from water tanks. It looked like a desert monastery built by people who understood that sometimes the world makes you choose between being good and being safe. Vaughn chose good. Built this place for men the system forgot. Now it might be the only thing keeping 5 women alive. The gates open. 2 veterans with rifles waved them through. Vaughn gunned the dying engine one last time. The truck lurched forward, crossed the threshold. The gates slammed shut. The SUVs pulled up 50 yards out and stopped. They didn't attack, didn't ram the gates, didn't even get out. Just sat there, watching, waiting. They're not coming in, Talia said. Not yet. Marlowe wants you to understand something. What? That he can wait, that eventually you'll have to come out. And when you do, he'll be there. Talia stared at the SUVs. 5 vehicles, maybe 20 men, professional, patient. This wasn't a rescue operation anymore. This was a siege. Inside the compound, Thalia helped unload the women. Rowan first, still unconscious but vital signs improving. They carried her to what Vaughn called the infirmary, a converted storage room with medical supplies accumulated over 20 years of treating veterans the VA failed. Patterson, a 65-year-old former Army medic, took over. His hands moved with the steady confidence of someone who'd treated everything from bullet wounds to chemical exposure. Severe dehydration, he said after examination. Cardiac arrhythmia from prolonged inversion. Minor strokes from blood pooling. She needs a hospital. Can't get to a hospital, Talia said, nodding toward the window where SUVs sat like patient vultures. Patterson looked at Rowan, then at the gates, then back at Talia. Then we do what we've always done, he said. Make do with what we have and pray it's enough. The other women recovered better. Bryn was weak but mobile. Harlow had regained consciousness fully and was already asking about the compound's security systems. Delaney sat quiet, staring at her hands like they belonged to someone else. Jennifer woke up screaming. It took 4 people to hold her down. Not because she was violent, because terror gives people strength that defies logic. You're safe, Talia said, kneeling beside her. You're safe now. Safe? Jennifer laughed. Broken sound. There's no safe. He owns the border. He owns the police. He owns everything that matters. Not here. Not this place. Jennifer's eyes focused. Saw Thalia. Really saw her. You're the one from the warehouse. Who cut us down? Yeah. Why? Because leaving you there would have been wrong. Jennifer stared, then started crying, not sobbing, just tears running down her face while she lay too exhausted to move. My name is Jennifer Reeves. I'm from Ohio. I managed hotels. They offered me work, hospitality consulting, said I'd be training staff at resorts. Her voice cracked. I'm so stupid. You're a victim of professionals who specialize in making smart people feel stupid. There's a difference. Talia left her with Patterson and found Vaughn in the command center. Another converted room filled with radio equipment and computers that looked older than some of the veterans living here. He was staring at a satellite feed. The SUVs hadn't moved. They're setting up a perimeter, Vaughn said. Not attacking, just containment. How long can we hold? Food and water? 2 months if we ration. Ammunition? He paused. That's the problem. How much? Enough for a firefight, not enough for a siege. Talia studied the screen. 5 vehicles positioned at strategic points. Professional spacing. These weren't thugs. These were military contractors. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She answered. Miss Merrick, Marlowe's voice. I trust your accommodations are adequate. What do you want? What I've always wanted, return on investment. You cost me 30 girls in Mexico, 18 months rebuilding that operation. Now you've cost me 5 more, plus 4 men, plus a warehouse. The math isn't in your favor. Should have stayed in Mexico. Should have, but you became unfinished business. His voice dropped. I don't like loose ends, and you're the loosest end I've had in years. Feelings mutual. Silence, then. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk out, alone, unarmed, get in my vehicle. We're going to have a conversation about cooperation and consequences. And if I don't, then I make phone calls. Immigration, Border Patrol, local police. I inform them that a dishonorably discharged Marine is holding illegal border crossers hostage in a compound full of armed men. I have photographs. I have witnesses. I have everything I need to turn you from rescuer to kidnapper in 6 minutes. Nobody will believe that. You sure? Disgraced soldier living off-grid with veterans nobody cares about suddenly shows up with 5 illegal immigrants in this political climate? He laughed. They'll want to believe it. Makes a better story than the truth. Thalia's jaw tightened. 24 hours, Marlowe said. Then I make the calls. Clock's ticking. The line went dead. Vaughn had heard the whole thing on speaker. What do we do? We survive 24 hours, then we move. Move where? He wants a trade, me for them, so I give him what he wants. Thalia, but not the way he expects. She pulled up a map on the screen, studied terrain, approaches, weaknesses in his perimeter. You taught me that a cornered enemy is most dangerous, she said, but you also taught me that enemies expect you to act like prey. So we stopped acting like prey. Evening came with heat that made metal burn to touch. The women gathered in the common room, folding tables, mismatched chairs, a refrigerator that hummed like it was angry about still working. Bryn sat with Rowan, who'd regained consciousness but hadn't spoken. Just stared at the ceiling, like maybe if she looked hard enough, she'd find a way to rewind the last 2 weeks. Harlow was at a laptop, fingers flying. Their vehicles have jeeps. If I can hack their network. You can't, Vaughn said gently. Military encryption. Even trying would alert them. So we just wait? We plan. Delaney stood by the window. She'd been silent since the warehouse. Too silent. Thalia approached. You good? No. Fair enough. Delaney turned. Her eyes were red, not from crying, from something harder. 6 months ago, a man approached me. Said his company needed security consultants, athletes who could handle pressure, good pay, part-time work. Talia waited. I needed money. College is expensive. My family's broke. So I said yes. She laughed bitterly. Did courier work. Delivered packages. Never asked what was inside. So stupid. You were desperate. There's a difference. When I figured out what I was really doing, I tried to quit. Told them I wanted out. Her voice cracked. 2 days later, they grabbed me off the street. Said if I didn't cooperate, they'd take my sisters. So I cooperated, and they took them anyway. Because that's what men like Marlowe do. They take until there's nothing left. I should have known. Should have doesn't save anyone. Talia gripped her shoulder. But what you do next might. I can't even walk straight. Then you'll fight sitting down. You'll help Harlow with tech. You'll watch our backs. You'll do whatever you can because doing nothing means they win. Something shifted in Delaney's expression. Recognition. This was what survival looked like after the immediate danger passed, choosing to fight even when your body was broken. Okay, she said. Then I fight. They trained through the night. Not combat training. You can't turn civilians into soldiers in 12 hours. But you can teach them to survive. Thalia showed them basics. How to move. How to think tactically. How to identify exits and understand that violence is always possible, and preparation is the difference between victim and survivor. Bryn learned combat first aid. Patterson showed her wound packing, tourniquets, how to keep someone alive when keeping them alive is the only option that matters. Harlow learned security systems. Vaughn taught her vehicle disabling, electronic surveillance, using household items as weapons or distractions. Delaney learned firearms. Despite her injuries, athletic muscle memory transferred to tactical movement faster than Thalia expected. Natural talent combined with desperation made her competent in hours. Rowan watched, still recovering, still processing, but her artist's eye tracked everything. Jennifer Reeves sat with Patterson learning about underground networks, safe houses, resources for trafficking, victims who escaped but couldn't go home. "Why are you doing this?" Jennifer's asked Talia during a break. "Teaching you to fight?" "All of it. Most people would have dropped us at a police station." "Police stations don't help when monsters own the police." "But you don't even know us." Talia looked at her. "I know enough." At 3 a.m., Vaughn found her in the command center. He moved slower now, using a cane he hadn't needed yesterday. Stress aged even men who'd survived Korea. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Don't need to." "That's a lie." "Then call it what it is. Preparation." Marlowe calls in 18 hours. "We need a plan that works." Vaughn sat heavily. "I need to tell you something about Marlowe, about why this matters more than just one trafficking ring." "I'm listening." "Korea, 1952, I was 20 years old, fresh off the boat. Saw things that weren't supposed to happen. Comfort women, forced labor, officers facilitating it, profiting from it." Talia waited. "I reported it, up the chain, got told to stand down. That war makes everything complicated, that I didn't understand the bigger picture." His hands tightened on the cane. "So I did what I was told. 19 years old, and I believed the system would handle it. It didn't. No, it buried it. And the men running those operations, they came home, started businesses, made connections, built empires on the backs of people nobody missed." And Marlowe? His grandfather was one of those officers, built a fortune on trafficking and laundered it through legitimate businesses. Marlowe inherited both sides, the clean money and the dirty operation. Third-generation monster. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "Because I needed you focused on the mission, not on history." Vaughn met her eyes. "But truth is, I've been hunting Marlowe for 3 years. Ever since I found out he was doing the same things his grandfather did, using military connections, exploiting borders, building wealth on suffering. You used me. I prepared you. There's a difference. You had the skills, the motivation, the absolute refusal to let bureaucracy stop you from doing right. That's rare." Talia stood. "You sent me after him knowing it was personal, knowing he'd recognize me, knowing it would become a trap. I sent you after him knowing you were the only one who could stop him." They stared at each other. Old soldier and young warrior, mentor and student, both carrying weights that didn't show on scales. "Did you know he'd take my sisters?" Talia asked quietly. "No, that was him adapting, making it more personal. It was already personal. Now it's more than personal. Now it's about whether you let the past define you or whether you define yourself." Talia turned back to the screen, the SUV still waiting, patient as death. 12 hours, she said. Then we move." "How?" "Marlowe wants a trade, me for them. He thinks that gives him leverage, but he's wrong about something fundamental." "What?" "He thinks I'm alone, but I've been teaching 5 women how to fight, and they're faster learners than he expects." Morning came with a phone call, Marlowe's voice. "Time's up, Miss Merrick. Decision time." "I'm coming out." Silence, then, "Smart choice, conditions. My sisters go to federal custody. Real federal custody. Not your people. I verify handoff before I surrender." "Done, 2 hours. Tucson FBI field office." "How do I know you won't just take them?" "You don't, but it's the only offer you're getting." The line went dead. Thalia turned to the others. Bryn, Harlow, Delaney, Rowan, Jennifer, all watching. We're leaving, she said. Tucson. FBI office, 2 hours. That's a trap, Bryn said. I know. So why are we going? Because sometimes the only way out of a trap is through it. They loaded into 2 vehicles, Vaughn's truck and a backup van. 12 people total, 5 rescued women. Thalia, Vaughn, Patterson, 4 other veterans who volunteered despite knowing the odds. The SUVs followed at respectful distance, not attacking, just herding. 80 miles to Tucson. Desert that looked the same in every direction until you understood terrain, and then it became a battlefield. Whatever happens, Thalia said to Vaughn, get them out. That's the mission. And you? I'll handle Marlowe. Thalia, just get them out. Tucson appeared on the horizon. City, civilization, the illusion of safety. The FBI field office sat downtown. Modern building, glass and steel. Security that looked impressive if you didn't understand that security theater isn't the same as actual security. A woman waited at the entrance. 40, professional suit, FBI credentials visible. Miss Merrick, she called as they pulled up. I'm Special Agent Kira Sutton. I'll be handling your transfer. Thalia studied her. Normal heartbeat, steady hands, but eyes that tracked everyone with the focus of someone expecting trouble. These women need medical attention, Thalia said, helping Bryn out, and witness protection. They're trafficking victims. I understand we have facilities prepared. Sutton gestured inside. If you'll come in, we can process everything properly. They filed through security, metal detectors beeping, guards watching but not interfering. Sutton led them to a conference room. Please have a seat. I'll bring water and arrange medical staff. She left. Thalia checked the room. One door, no windows, cameras in corners. Something's wrong, she whispered to Vaughn. He nodded slightly. Feels like it. Sutton returned with the water bottles. Medical team is delayed. Please, drink. You must be exhausted. She handed bottles around. Everyone took one, except Thalia. I'm good, she said. Sutton's eyes flicked to her, just for a second. Too fast. Suit yourself. Sutton smiled, opened her own bottle, took a drink to demonstrate safety. Around the room, the others drank. 30 seconds later, Harlow's eyes rolled back. She slumped. Delaney dropped next, then Jennifer. Patterson collapsed. The veterans followed. Bryn looked at her bottle, then at Thalia. What? She collapsed. Rowan went last, silent, like everything she'd done. Thalia was already moving, but Sutton was faster. Gun out, aimed. Don't, Thalia froze. I'm sorry, Sutton said, voice shaking now, professional mask cracking. I'm so sorry, but he has my daughter. She's 14. He took her 3 days ago. Said if I didn't help him, he'd... Her voice broke. I can't let her die. I can't. The door opened. Raymond Marlowe entered. 50 years old, expensive suit, face that looked normal until you realized normal was just a mask over something that had learned to wear humanity like a costume. 6 contractors followed. Armed, professional. Miss Merrick, Marlowe said, we finally meet properly. He walked closer. You cost me 30 girls in Mexico, 18 months of rebuilding. Then you show up again. Cost me 5 more. 4 men, a warehouse. The math keeps getting worse. Good, he smiled. I like that. No begging, no bargaining, just defiance. He circled her. Yun Sutton's daughter goes free. Your sisters go free. Everyone walks away, except you. What do you want? Answers. You had intelligence on my operations. Real time. Someone's been feeding you information. I want to know who. And if I tell you, then you die quick instead of slow. Thalia looked at Sutton. The agent was crying now. Silent tears. Gun still steady because training overrides conscience. Your daughter, Thalia said. She's already dead. You know that, right? Shut up, Marlowe said. Men like him don't let witnesses go. He's using you until he doesn't need you. Then he kills your daughter and you and everyone in this room. I said shut up. Thalia looked at Bryn, unconscious, helpless again. She looked at Rowan, 16 years old with so much trauma she might never draw flowers again. She looked at Vaughn. 92 years old and still fighting a war that started before she was born. Then she looked at Marlowe. Okay, she said, I'll tell you everything. But first you let them go. Verify transfer. Then you get your answers. Marlowe studied her, reading, calculating. Fine, he said finally. 24 hours. They stay sedated. You stay with me. Then we verify. Then you talk. How do I know you'll keep your word? You don't, but it's the only offer you're getting. Same words from the phone. Circle closing. Marlowe's men started loading unconscious bodies onto gurneys, prepping for transport. As they lifted Bryn, Thalia moved closer, leaned down like checking her breathing. Whispered into her ear, 72 hours, not 24. Remember everything I taught you. Bryn's fingers twitched, barely, the only sign she was conscious enough to hear. Thalia straightened. They wheeled the bodies out. Vaughn last, his eyes locked on hers as they took him, trying to communicate something without words. She nodded slightly. Message received. Then they were gone. Just Thalia, Marlowe, Sutton, 6 contractors. Now what? Thalia asked. Now we wait, Marlowe said, and you think very carefully about whether you want your last days to be painful or quick. He left. The contractors stayed, weapons ready. Sutton holstered her gun, sat down heavily. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Save it for your lawyer. Thalia leaned against the wall, closed her eyes, ran through the plan McGinn, 72 hours. Not 24 like Marlowe thought, 72. Because while teaching the other survival skills, she taught Delaney something specific. How to make a phone call without being noticed. How to contact people Vaughn knew. People in federal law enforcement who weren't on Marlowe's payroll. How to start a clock ticking that Marlowe wouldn't hear until it was too late. 3 days for the investigation to move. For warrants. For everything Vaughn had collected to reach the right people. 3 days for her to keep Marlowe's attention while the trap closed. She opened her eyes, looked at the contractors, smiled slightly. They had no idea what was coming. And part 2 ended with Thalia alone in a locked room and her sisters being loaded into a van, and somewhere in the distance, a clock was ticking down, but only Thalia knew which direction it was counting and what would happen when it reached 0. 72 hours is exactly enough time to dismantle an empire. Thalia spent the first 24 hours in the locked room counting ceiling tiles and waiting for Marlowe to make his mistake. The contractors rotated shifts every 6 hours. Professional. But professionals get complacent when the prisoner doesn't fight. They brought food she didn't eat, water she barely touched, spoke only to confirm she was breathing. Marlowe visited once that first day. Comfortable, Sam? He asked. I've had worse. That's good. Because this can go easy or hard, your choice. He pulled up a chair. Who's been feeding you intelligence? Nobody. Wrong answer. He leaned forward. I know someone's been tracking my operations. Someone with access to networks that shouldn't exist. Someone who knew exactly when and where to find those girls. Maybe I'm just that good. Maybe. Or maybe you had help from someone who's been hunting me for years. Thalia said nothing. Colonel Vaughn, Marlowe continued, 92 years old, Korean War veteran, been running that compound for 20 years, taking in broken vets and teaching them to be vigilantes. He takes in people the system failed. There's a difference. Semantics. Marlowe stood. I'll ask again tomorrow. Think about your answer. He left. Day 2, he brought photographs. Bryn and the others in what looked like a medical facility, unconscious, hooked to monitors. They're comfortable, he said, for now. For now? Until I decide they're not useful anymore. Thalia met his eyes. You're going to kill them regardless. Probably, but you can decide whether it's fast or whether I take my time. Your cooperation determines that. And then you're not getting cooperation. We'll see. Day 3, he brought video. Rowan, awake now, crying, asking where Thalia was, why she'd left them, if she was coming back. She thinks you abandoned her, Marlowe said. The 16-year-old who draws flowers. She believes her big sister traded her for survival. Thalia watched the video, felt something crack inside her chest. How does that feel? Marlowe asked. Like I'm doing my job. Which is? Keeping you distracted. His expression shifted, confusion, then understanding, then rage. The building's fire alarm screamed to life. Sprinklers activated, water cascaded from ceiling fixtures. Emergency lights strobed red and white. The contractors moved instantly. 2 stayed with Talia. 4 rushed for the door. Marlowe grabbed the nearest one. What's happening? Fire alarm, sir. Could be legitimate or... The lights died. Complete darkness except for emergency strobes painting everything in seizure-inducing flashes. Thalia moved. 3 days of counting, measuring, memorizing the room in her mind until she could navigate it blind. She was on the nearest contractor before he registered movement, took his sidearm, put him down with his own weapon, turned, fired twice. Muzzle flash illuminating the second contractor's face before he dropped. Marlowe ran. She let him. Bigger problems first. The door burst open, 4 contractors returning, backlit by hallway emergency lighting. She dropped 2 before they cleared the threshold. The third got a shot off. Bullet passed close enough that she felt the heat. She returned fire. Center mass, he dropped. The fourth was smart, took cover, retreated while firing. She didn't chase. Chasing gets you killed in unfamiliar terrain. Instead, she keyed her earpiece, a piece of equipment the contractors had somehow missed during their searches because they'd been looking for phones and weapons, not military-grade communication devices disguised as hearing aids. Vaughn, you there? Static, then, right where I'm supposed to be. The others? Armed, mobile, angry. Good, we need angry. She moved through the building, not FBI field office. That had been a front. This was something else. Corporate office space. Bland, anonymous. The kind of place that exists on paper but nobody actually works in. Perfect for operations that need to look legitimate without being legitimate. Behind her, voices. Contractors regrouping. Ahead, an exit sign glowing green through emergency lighting. She hit the door running. Outside was chaos. 3 news vans, 2 actual FBI vehicles, local police, fire department responding to the alarm. And standing in the middle of it all, looking entirely too pleased with herself, was Harlow. Took you long enough, the 20-year-old said. You triggered all this? Called everyone I could think of. News, real FBI, fire department. Made sure enough people showed up that Marlowe couldn't disappear everyone. She grinned. You said create distractions using whatever tools available. I use social media and a cell phone. Talia almost smiled. Where are the others? 3 blocks east. Vaughn's got them, waiting for you. Sutton? In FBI custody. Real FBI this time. She's talking. A lot. That had been the plan within the plan. Not loyalty or redemption, just desperation. Once Sutton realized Marlowe would kill her daughter regardless, cooperation became survival. And Marlowe? Ran, but we tagged his vehicle with a tracker while you were inside. Harlow held up a tablet, satellite feed showing a moving target. Heading for the border. Probably thinks he can disappear into Mexico like last time. Last time he didn't have every federal agency looking for him. So we just let him go? Talia looked at the tablet, at the moving target, at the border 40 miles south. No, she said, we finished this. They regrouped at a salvage yard on Tucson's edge, the kind of place where cars go to die and questions don't get asked. Vaughn had commandeered an old Suburban. The women were inside, Bryn in passenger seat, Delaney, Rowan, and Jennifer in back. All armed now with weapons taken from contractors who'd made the mistake of thinking sedated meant helpless. Don't ask how, Vaughn said when Talia looked the question at him. You were awake the whole time. We all were. Sedative in the water was real. But I've been building tolerance to common tranquilizers for 30 years. Old habit from Korea, never trust what goes in your body. That herbal tea I drink builds immunity to most standard compounds. He smiled slightly. Taught the others how to fake unconsciousness. We've been planning this extraction for 3 days. Bryn leaned out the window. You left us a message. 72 hours. We figured out you needed time, that you were bait while we became the trap. You figured correctly. So now what? Talia pulled up the tablet. Marlowe's running for the border. We stop him before he crosses. How? Delaney asked. Same way we've done everything else. Together. They drove south, 40 miles through desert that looked empty until you understood how to read it. Then it became tactical terrain. Vaughn drove. Thalia navigated, the others prepared. Bryn checked medical supplies. Delaney loaded magazines with hands that barely shook anymore. Rowan sat quiet but helped where needed, no longer frozen, no longer lost. Jennifer Reeves from Ohio, who'd been a hotel manager 3 weeks ago, checked the rifle Vaughn had given her like she'd been doing it forever. "Where'd you learn that?" Talia asked. "My dad took me hunting every fall until college." Jennifer worked the action. "Figured I'd never need it in hospitality management." Harlow tracked Marlowe's vehicle. "He's slowing, mile marker 42. Talia checked the map. Nothing there but desert and a ravine, natural choke point. "He's meeting someone or setting a trap. Either way, we don't have a choice." They reached mile marker 42 as sunset painted the desert gold and red. Marlowe's SUV sat empty in the middle of the road. Driver's door open. Classic ambush setup. "He knows we're coming," Talia said. "Of course he does," Vaughn replied. "Question is what he plans to do about it." The answer came as gunfire. Not from the ravine, from the high ground. Suppressing fire designed to pin them, while the real attack came from elsewhere. "Out! Move!" They bailed from the Suburban, took cover behind the vehicle. Return fire came from 3 positions. Maybe 6 shooters. Bad odds, not impossible. "We're pinned," Bryn said. "Then we unpin ourselves." Talia turned to Delaney. "High ground, 3 o'clock. See it?" "Yeah." "Take Harlow, flank right. Get above them." The 2 women moved, fast and low, using terrain like Thalia had taught them. "Jennifer, you're with me. We go left. Draw their fire." "What about us?" Rowan asked, first word since the warehouse. Thalia looked at her. "You and Bryn cover Vaughn. If this goes bad, you drive out. Don't look back." "We're not leaving you," Bryn said. "You will if I tell you to." "No, we won't." They stared at each other. Sisters. "Fine," Talia said. "Then stay low and don't die." She moved left with Jennifer. Bullets chewed rock inches from their heads. They worked up the ravine. Slow, careful, every movement calculated. Above, Delaney and Harlow reached high ground. First shots rang out, controlled bursts. The girls were holding. Thalia and Jennifer emerged behind 2 contractors, both focused on the Suburban. Both surprised when Thalia appeared. She dropped the first. Jennifer took the second. "Left flank clear," Talia said into her earpiece. "Right flank engaging," Delaney's voice. 2 down, 1 retreating. That left 3, maybe 4 if Marlowe was fighting instead of running. Movement ahead, a figure in tactical gear moving toward the Suburban, toward Rowan. Thalia broke into a run. The contractor raised his weapon. She fired twice. He dropped, but the shot gave away her position. Return fire from 2 sources. She dove behind cover. Bullets sparked off rock. Then Vaughn's voice, calm as Sunday morning. "Thalia, 3 o'clock, 15 meters. She turned, saw muzzle flash, returned fire, heard the grunt of impact. "Clear." 1 left. She moved forward. Weapon up, scanning. Found him at the ravine's edge. Raymond Marlowe. Expensive suit covered in dust, gun in hand. Looking at the drop like measuring whether survival was possible. "It's not," Talia said. He turned. Weapon came up. She was faster. Shot him in the knee. He went down screaming. She approached, kicked his weapon away, stood over him while he bled and cursed and realized his empire had just collapsed. "You should have stayed in Mexico," she said. "You should have died 18 months ago," he spat back. "Should have accepted the discharge quietly. Should have known your place." My place is making sure men like you don't get to build empires on suffering. They'll never convict me. I have lawyers, connections, money." "You had all that?" "Past tense." She knelt down, met his eyes. "Right now you've got a bullet in your leg and about 60 seconds before federal agents arrive. Want to spend it telling me how rich you are? Or spend it thinking about the 200 women you'll never touch again?" His face went pale. Real fear. Finally, sirens in the distance. Real FBI. Real law enforcement. Everything Sutton had given them, everything Vaughn had collected, everything the news coverage had forced into daylight. Coming fast, federal vehicles arrived, actual agents, credentials verified. They secured Marlowe, took statements. started the process that would turn battlefield into evidence, into prosecution, into justice. If you believed in justice. Thalia wasn't sure she did anymore. But she believed in this, in women who'd been helpless learning to fight, in survivors becoming something more than victims, in the fact that sometimes stopping monsters requires becoming more dangerous than they are. Special Agent Sutton arrived in handcuffs, still in custody but cooperating, giving everything. "My daughter," she said when she saw Talia. They found her. She's alive." "Good. I'm sorry, I'm so—" "Save it. You made a choice. Now you live with consequences." Sutton nodded, accepted that. "Some bridges you burn so completely there's no rebuilding." They drove back to Tucson as the sun set. Quiet, exhausted, alive. Vaughn looked every one of his 92 years. Thalia wondered how much longer he could keep doing this. "You thinking I'm too old for this?" he asked, reading her mind. "Thinking we need to change how we fight. One battle at a time isn't enough." "What do you mean?" "We've rescued maybe 50 women in 3 years. Marlowe had 200 in his network. How many others are out there?" "Too many to count." "Exactly. So maybe we stop counting and start building something bigger." The compound had transformed. What had been shelter for 20 veterans was now training facility for 140 people. Half were veterans, half were survivors, women who'd been trafficked, who'd been rescued, who'd decided being saved wasn't enough, and they wanted to learn how to save others. Thalia stood in the tactical training room watching 40 women in formation. Ages 16 to 50, different backgrounds, same determination. "Defense isn't just physical," she said. "It's knowing you deserve to be safe, that you deserve to fight back, that nobody gets to decide your worth except you." She demonstrated a move, basic hand-to-hand, how to break a grab, create distance. Rowan was in the front row, 17 now. She'd started drawing again, but warriors instead of flowers. Bryn worked in the medical wing, training others in trauma care, teaching that healing happens in stages, and sometimes the first stage is just staying alive. Delaney ran physical training, former athlete, natural leader. She pushed people hard but fair. Harlow handled technology, digital security, how to track traffickers, turn their tools against them. Jennifer Reeves ran administration, hotel management skills transferred well to running a rescue operation. They called it the Merrick Foundation. Thalia had argued against using her name. Vaughn overruled her. "People need to know this is real," he'd said, "that there's a face behind it, someone who survived and decided to help others survive." They'd rescued 87 women in 18 months, partnered with legitimate federal agencies, built networks that actually worked. Marlowe went to trial, convicted on 63 counts, life in prison, no parole. His network collapsed. Associates flipped. More arrests, more rescues. Sutton testified, got reduced sentence, 8 years for cooperation. Her daughter was in therapy but alive. Sometimes that had to be enough. Now Talia stood teaching and thought about Vaughn's words from that first night. Maybe we stop fighting one battle at a time and start changing the war. They were doing that, one trained woman at a time. After class, she found Vaughn in his office. He moved slower now, used a wheelchair some days. But his mind was sharp and his voice was strong. "New batch arriving tomorrow," she said. 23 women. Phoenix operation. "We're ready. How are you feeling?" "Old?" He smiled. "But useful. There's a difference." "The doctors said 6 months. That was 4 months ago. I'm on borrowed time." "We'll make it count." "No, you'll make it count. I'll be dead." They sat in comfortable silence, teacher and student, old soldier and young warrior. "What happens when you're gone?" Talia asked. "The work continues. That's what happens." "I don't know if I can do this without you." "Yes, you can. You already are. I'm just the old man in the wheelchair who occasionally offers advice." "You're more than that." "Maybe, but the foundation isn't about me. It's about what comes after." That's how you win, not by being irreplaceable, but by making sure the work continues without you. Vaughn died on a Tuesday morning, quietly, in his sleep, surrounded by people whose lives he'd changed without ever asking for recognition. They buried him at the compound. Military honors, 21 gun salute. 300 people attended. Thalia gave the eulogy. Colonel Vaughn taught me three things, she said. First, that honor isn't following orders. It's doing what's right. Second, that a warrior's duty never ends, it evolves. Third, that the greatest legacy isn't what you accomplish, it's who you teach to accomplish more. She paused, looked at the crowd. He taught me, I'm teaching you, you'll teach the next generation. That's how we win, not by fighting harder, but by refusing to stop fighting. They lowered the casket, played taps, folded the flag. Afterward, alone at the grave, Thalia spoke to the stone. We're at 200 now. Women rescued, 160 in training, 60 active operators. We've shut down 12 trafficking rings, arrested 47 people. It's not enough, still too many monsters. The stone said nothing. But we're not stopping. You taught me that. You don't stop because the fight is hard. You stop when you're dead. And even then, you make sure someone else picks up the weapon. She stood, brushed dust from the marker. Thank you for everything. The phone didn't ring at 3 a.m. anymore. They had a dedicated hotline now. Professional operation. Infrastructure. But tonight at 2:47, Thalia's personal cell buzzed. Unknown number. Border area code. She answered. This is Detective Morrison, San Diego PD. We have 12 women. Warehouse situation. Same setup you've seen. They're asking for you specifically. I'll be there in 4 hours. Should we wait to cut them down? No, you cut them down now. Get them medical attention. Treat them like human beings. I'll handle the rest when I arrive. She hung up. Bryn appeared in the doorway. Another call? San Diego. 12 women. I'll get the team. No, you stay here. Train the new arrivals. I'm taking Rowan and 3 recent graduates. You sure? They're ready. You trained them well. 4 hours later, Talia stood in a San Diego warehouse. Different building. Same story. Women who'd been hanging, who'd been rescued by police who'd finally learned the right protocols. One of them, maybe 20, asked, "Can I learn what you do?" Different phrasing than Jennifer had used. Same essential question. Yeah, Talia said. You can learn. The 20-year-old's name was Michaela. 6 months later, she graduated from the Foundations program, joined an operation in Texas, rescued 8 women from a shipping container. 2 of those 8 eventually joined the Foundation, became warriors, ran their own operations. Victim to survivor to savior. Chain reaction. That's how you win. The memorial park stood where the original warehouse had been, demolished, turned into something that acknowledged pain without celebrating it. The plaque read, "In memory of all victims of human trafficking, may their courage inspire us to build a world where no one suffers alone in darkness." Talia visited on the anniversary. 5 years since she'd cut down 5 women who'd been hanging helpless. The foundation had expanded to 8 locations. 2,000 women had passed through. Some stayed, some left. Learned that being saved was just the beginning. Bryn ran the medical division nationally now, trained hundreds, testified before Congress about victim services. Delaney headed field operations across 4 states, 93% success rate. Harlow's technology systems tracked trafficking networks internationally, tools that let victims report safely. Jennifer Reeves from Ohio ran an organization with a $14 million budget and partnerships with governments and NGOs worldwide. Rowan, 21 now, led art therapy programs, teaching survivors to create beauty after experiencing horror. Thalia still trained, still taught, still took calls at odd hours when someone needed help. But the work had evolved. They weren't just rescuing anymore. They were building systems that made rescue unnecessary. Prevention, education, support networks, changing the war, like Vaughn had said. Her phone buzzed. Not a rescue call, a notification. Another foundation opening. This one in Nevada, backed by a coalition of survivors who'd become activists, policymakers, and advocates. The movement was growing beyond her now, beyond any one person. That's how you knew it was working. She pulled out her phone, looked at the wallpaper. Photo of Vaughn, Bryn, Delaney, Harlow, Rowan, and Jennifer. The first class, the ones who'd been hanging helpless and chose to become warriors. She thought about Marlowe rotting in prison, about Sutton serving her sentence but knowing her daughter was safe, about 2,000 women who'd learned that victims don't have to stay victims, about the choice that defined everything. A woman approached the memorial, young, maybe 19, Hispanic, nervous. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you Thalia Merrick?" "Yeah. I saw you on the news. Read about the foundation. She swallowed hard. "I need help. My sister. She crossed the border for work, and I haven't heard from her in 2 weeks, and I think—" "I know," Talia said gently. "Give me the details. We'll find her." The woman did. Talia took notes, made calls, activated the network. By sunset, they'd located the sister. By midnight, she was safe. By morning, she was asking the same question everyone eventually asked. "Can I learn what you do?" And Talia gave the same answer she always gave. "Yeah, you can learn." The warehouse where it started was gone, turned into gardens and benches and a memorial that said, "Here stood a place of suffering. Now stands a promise that we remember, we honor, and we fight." But warehouses still existed. Women still hung helpless in darkness. Monsters still built empires on suffering. The difference was that now, when the call came at odd hours, it wasn't just one woman answering. It was 2,000. Victim to survivor to savior. The chain, unbroken. From one warehouse in Arizona to a movement that spanned continents. From one woman cutting down 5 sisters to an army of survivors cutting down chains everywhere they found them. That was the choice, not just surviving, not just being saved, but deciding what came after. Deciding who you became. Deciding that no one else would suffer if you had anything to say about it. Thalia Merrick walked away from the memorial as the sun set. Tomorrow, there would be calls, rescues, training, the work that never ended. But tonight, for just a moment, she let herself feel what Vaughn must have felt in his final days. Not that the work was done, it would never be done, but that the work would continue without her, that she'd built something that would outlast her, that the women she'd taught would teach others, who would teach others, spreading like fire across dry timber. That's what legacy meant, not monuments or statues or buildings with your name, but warriors who carried your lessons forward into a world that still had too many monsters and not enough fighters, but was getting better, one choice at a time. The choice to fight back, the choice to teach others, the choice to refuse to let darkness win. Always the choice was yours, and 2,000 women had chosen.